Welcome into the San Francisco 49ers Report. Chase Sr. here with you. And as always, no matter where you are or how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day as we always talk Niners here on the program. Today's rundown, here's everything that we're discussing. Niners fans getting some good positive news on Christian McCaffrey going into a huge year for him in 2025. We do have some bad developments along the offensive line with what the Niners' plans might be going into this upcoming season. Could a surprising cornerback be rising up the depth chart, who the Niners just signed to be this team's third cornerback? Alongside Deommodore Lenoir and Renardo Green, and John Lynch finally speaks for the first time since the NFL Combine, and he says definitively, we have a plan. Before we talk about all of that, happy March Madness to everybody. I know a lot of you have filled out your brackets. I have Florida winning it all against Houston, but the real bracket is this one. Thanks to Rob Stats Guerrera and the Gold Standard Network, they have put together a 49ers Media March Madness bracket. I am in the Montana region, which if you're looking at this, top left, I'm the number 2 seed. So the link is down below in the description of today's show. Vote for me so that we can make it all the way to the national championship and we can win going up against some really talented people who cover this football team, TV, radio, digital, all that and a whole lot more. But vote for your boy here, number 2 seed in that Montana bracket, and let's get this dub. All right, let's begin with this. Some photos leaked yesterday of Christian McCaffrey's offseason workouts. He looks healthy. He's getting after it. This coming after a very disappointing 2024 campaign where he played in 4 games and had to deal with bilateral Achilles tendonitis, missed the first half of the season. Then he came back for those 4 games. Didn't look good. Started to look good against Buffalo in the snow and then suffered that season-ending PCL injury in his knee. And after the year, we saw some footage of him in a really bulky knee brace on the knee that he had hurt. And a lot of people were speculating, did he undergo surgery? What's going on? Is he just stabilizing that knee? Well, a few months later, here he is, these photos being released on social media yesterday of some of his offseason workouts. He's looking swole. He's looking jacked. Here he is next to his brother, Luke McCaffrey, a wide receiver who was drafted 2 drafts ago, not including the 2025 draft. So last year by the Washington Commanders. And this is a good sign for McCaffrey's status going into this upcoming season because the Niners need him to stay healthy. And if he's already doing all of this, sprint workouts on the track, running routes on the football field, I think signs are pointing up for him to hopefully be able to partake in practices here after the NFL draft once minicamp gets underway. And here he is doing some medicine ball workouts. The lower half, obviously looking healthy. There's some load on those legs, and then the upper body has never been a concern with Christian McCaffrey. And the Niners making a risky move, in my opinion, last weekend in trading away Jordan Mason, considering the injury history of McCaffrey and Isaac Guerendo, Patrick Taylor, the other running back notably on this team, in addition to Israel Abanikanda, former 5th-round pick out of Pittsburgh, who didn't work out for the New York Jets. Because Jordan Mason's a really good player. I would not have traded him away. I think that he can make up for bad offensive line play. I think he's a unique player with the skill set that he has to break tackles and pick up yards after contact. And I think that with his style, playing bully ball, it translates to success on the ground regardless of poor offensive line play in front of you. And the missed tackle forced rate last year during the 2024 season, look at who was number 1. Jordan Mason at 37.3%, ahead of Bucky Irving, who was awesome for the Buccaneers last year, ahead of Kenneth Walker, Bijan Robinson, Tank Bigsby, some good running backs on that list. And before Christian McCaffrey came back from that bilateral Achilles tendonitis, Jordan Mason was on pace to run for more than 1,000 yards, and I thought he would have been a great complement this year alongside McCaffrey with Isaac Guerendo as part of that Niners backfield, but San Francisco didn't want to pay him clearly the $5+ million that they would have had to have paid him. if he were to play under that second-round tender, and Kyle Shanahan never really trusted him because of the lack of pass protection ability and ability to catch the ball consistently out of the backfield. Now, going back to McCaffrey, is he due to finally stay healthy? His games played by year since he was drafted by Carolina out of Stanford and then traded to the Niners, 16, 16, 16. His career got off to a roaring start. He was tremendous. Couple of all-pro honors sprinkled in there, and then 3-7. He gets traded to the Niners, plays 17 games in 2022, 16 games in 2023, had more than 2,000 all-purpose yards. He won NFL Offensive Player of the Year, top 5 in MVP voting, and only played in 4 games a year ago. If Christian McCaffrey can have a bounce-back year, it will do wonders for this Niners offense because he really does a great job of elevating players around him. The versatile skill set is so unique, one of one, catching the ball out of the backfield, lining up as a slot wide receiver. The footwork, route running is unbelievable. And then obviously as a running back, he's so talented. We've seen the impact that he had on the Niners offense 2 years ago. What Saquon Barkley did last year, the value of running backs is kind of back in a way. And if McCaffrey can do what Saquon did last year with Philadelphia and what McCaffrey did in 2023, this Niners offense can get back on track and be closer to the unit that we saw in 2023 as compared to the one that was a very frustrating watch in 2024. And he's a safety valve for Brock Purdy as a receiver, but also helps Purdy out as a runner too. So the big question going into this year, how many yards will CMC rush for in 2025? I hope that he can stay healthy because he's such a unique player. As for John Lynch, he spoke publicly for the first time since the NFL Combine. Matt Barrow's putting together a really good article on The Athletic, and John Lynch said, "We have a plan." Let's run through some of the most notable things he had to say in that article. First, with the free agent acquisitions and additions to this team, we like the ads that we've made. It's not the biggest names like years past, but we like the guys that we've added to our team. And unlike in years past, the Niners did not splurge by spending a lot of dollars. A lot of these moves, depth moves, moves of need, moves to improve this special teams unit, which last year was terrible. Luke Farrell, backup tight end, going to be a good blocker, can contribute on special teams. Got $11 million in guaranteed money. Patrick Taylor, backup running back, special teamer, 1-year deal. Richie Grant, former second-round pick, safety depth. He can contribute on special teams. 1 year, $1.5 million. Luke Gifford, linebacker, more of a special teams guy, but a good one at that. Kevin Givens, backup defensive tackle, still a big position of need going into the draft. Jason Pinnock, really talented player when he can play downhill and around the line of scrimmage. 1 year, $2.2 million. Demarcus Robinson coming off a really good year. 2 years, $9.5 million, $6 million guaranteed. He had more than 500 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns last year with 16.3 yards per catch for a really good Rams team. Trey Brown, more on him in a moment, 1 year, $2 million deal for a former 4th-round pick. Mac Jones is a backup behind Brock Purdy. 2 years, $11.5 million. Niners have a new long snapper with John Weeks. Can that help Jake Moody out after his big struggles in 2024? Kyle Juszczyk back on a 2-year, $8 million deal. And then Saron Neal, a cornerback for the Dolphins, again, a special teams player. So a combination of special teams guys. Niners did not spend a lot of money, but they have brought in a lot of players with some draft pedigree who were drafted in the first few rounds, who the Niners believe with quality coaching, player development, they can maximize those players. As for what John Lynch had to say about getting rid of players to free up money with looming contract extensions coming up for Brock Purdy, George Kittle, and Fred Warner. The Niners general manager saying the bottom line is you're always looking years out. As we forecasted, we obviously have some big things coming our way, and you have to clear the requisite room to be able to do that. Also, coming up, a Brandon Ayuk roster bonus on April 1st. Will the Niners trade BA before then to try to save some more money and get out of that contract? But it looks as though the Niners plan on paying Purdy, Kittle, Warner, 3 pillars of this Niners team. John Lynch on Kyle Juszczyk coming back after the Niners had released him earlier last week and then brought him back on Saturday. It worked out. He was able to go see what was there. Sometimes you have to go through that process to know how much this place meant to him. We did what we could do at the end, and we met at a place that we were both happy. We're thrilled to have him back. He's been a big part of what we do. The opportunity to have a guy like that on the franchise's 10-year wall, it meant something to us, and it meant something to him. There are two players who have an opportunity to be members of this team for a decade, and that's Kyle Juszczyk, and that's George Kittle. And if they're able to get there, it's a pretty special milestone given the physicality in the NFL and players not being able to make it to a second contract more times than not. And then here's John Lynch on the plan. We've got this thing called the draft, and we've got a lot of picks. And I think the thing that fans should know is we have a plan, and we're going to execute that plan. And we're excited about the opportunity. One thing the Niners have done, which I do like because I disagree with a lot of the moves that they've made or not made this offseason, they have a lot of really quality draft picks in 2025 coming up at the end of April, about a month away, and a lot of picks coming up in 2026. And this is coming off the heels of a very successful, in my eyes, 2024 NFL draft. If the Niners can really crush it, next couple of drafts on top of what they did in 2024, cost-controlled assets, cheaper players who are impact guys and younger, this team can get back to competing for Super Bowls. And a lot of the moves that the Niners have made, again, value deals. They've let a lot of players walk who have cashed in combined on deals of north of $300 million, and they brought in a lot of players who are affordable and cheap. That includes Trey Brown. Is he the leading candidate for cornerback 3? That was included in a conversation that Matt Barrows and Tim Kawakami had. Trey Brown is a player who spent the previous few years with the Seattle Seahawks after they took him in the 4th round in the 2021 draft out of Oklahoma. So he went to Oklahoma, solid player there. He's only played 39 games and 13 starts. So minimal starting experience, but as of right now, the Niners think that he can be the slot guy with Renardo Green and Deommodore Lenoir playing on the outside. This is also pretty interesting. The Niners front office loves Colton McKivitz, and they think that Colton McKivitz is the bee's knees. And that's what Matt Barrows also had to share in a podcast with Tim Kawakami. I disagree. I don't think the Niners are good enough at right tackle. I would upgrade at that position. If a good tackle falls to them at number 11, I'm taking one. If you don't go defensive tackle at number 11 and you go defensive line, I'm honing in on right tackle in the 2nd round because you can get a good player there. But this front office, they've fallen in love with McKivitz. And I'll give credit where credit is due. McKivitz was not good in 2023. He gave up nearly 50 pressures 2 years ago. Last year, though, he did improve. All of his Pro Football Focus numbers as far as overall grade, pass blocking grade, and run blocking grade were in the green. His overall grade, 72.2. That was 37th. Pass blocking grade, 72.8. That was 43rd. Run blocking grade, 68.6. That was 46th. Okay, solid play there. Just slightly above average. But he did give up a couple of sacks. That was 61st. And he still gave up a ton of pressures. 36 of them. 124th out of 141. Unfortunately, I don't know if the Niners, obviously, pending what they do in the draft, are taking the offensive line seriously enough. And how could that be the case given what you saw and the level of destruction that the Eagles' defensive line caused against the Chiefs' offensive line? And then there's this, Matt Barrows on the Niners' potential plans at the center spot. I would not be surprised if they're going to go with Jake Brendel and Matt Hennessy battling it out in training camp with Drake Nugent backing them up. We know all about Jake Brendel. Not good enough as a starting center in this league. Don't think he's strong enough with that lower half. Matt Hennessy is a former 2nd-round pick at Temple University who has played well before with the Atlanta Falcons, has dealt with a lot of injuries, though, and that's a little bit of a concern for me. This is also a concern. And part of the reason why the Niners are so thin along the defensive line, picks and players haven't worked out. Javon Kinlaw, Drake Jackson, a part of that. Drake Jackson had to undergo patellar tendon surgery last year, and he might not ever play for the Niners again. According to Matt Barrows, he said this: they used the second-round pick on defensive end 2 years ago, and Drake Jackson, and he's basically delivered very little. He might not play this season or ever again. That was a second-round pick after the Niners did not have a first-round pick because of the Trey Lance trade. And that's what sets your organization back when you whiff on early picks like that, especially at very important positions. So we'll continue to monitor Drake Jackson's status. If you enjoyed today's show, give me a real one down below as part of our Real One roll call. You know who you are. And if you want a Real One shirt, get yours today. Chatsports.com/Real149, available in Niner red and black. I'll put that link down below in the comment section and in the show notes of today's show.